Hey, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Dooner's Guide through Weirdoville. So where is Weirdoville? So Weirdoville is somewhere between Paterson, New York, Yonkers, and Danbury, Connecticut, and Florida. Somehow Florida. We'll get there. So yeah, there's this three labels, TPOS, Noiseville, and Nosehair, that existed a long time ago. Some still exist, TPOS, Noiseville. And we're here to talk about them. Right. So these go back to the 80s. There's many cassette releases, 7-inch releases, CD releases, LP releases, compilation releases. One of the best hardcore compilation releases ever to hit vinyl is represented here. So as I was, going through creating my show and kind of, guiding through Mirkwood, I reconnected with Jim, with Malcolm, and with Alan spiritually and physically with his record collection. So I came up with the idea of having a show, weekly show, twice a week, 7 days a week, however often Malcolm and Jim are available, to talk about these labels. We go back to the very beginning of them, go back to the beginning of TPOS and Noiseville and Nosehair, discuss how they started, go through the releases, the catalogs. We have access to all the catalogs here between the three of us. So we're going to take our time and we're going to journey through the crazy stories of these three punk rock labels. So welcome, Jimmy. Welcome, Malcolm. I'm really excited. Hey. So our story kind of begins.
I tell you, you give me a little more credit. I don't have that many interesting stories about Noiseville. Most of my stories about Noiseville usually end with, and then I wanted to kill myself and I talked myself out of it.
Yeah, but you have the vinyl.
Why did I put all my money into this stupid shit? What the hell is the matter with me?
So dumb little kids like me could just go nuts over the yellow marble vinyl breakdown 7-inch and how I get my hands on it, or the unholy swill that you pulled to Malcolm, from Sex Pistols, making me think it was known and available. Well, you had them all. The War Pigs, you can't get this. You're a mastermind at it, man. And I think there's a lot more appreciation that's going to come out of this show to show you that. So thanks for coming on, Jim. Thanks for doing it and bringing Noiseville. Malcolm, TPOS, everything kind of begins there, right? Because I think you started first. I believe around the time you brought us back to your Black Flag shows back in '82 in Florida. So when did TPOS start?
Well, the very first TPOS release dates back to March 1st, 1984, many years before you were born.
Me? No, I'm 75. I'm 75, man.
All right, so you were a wee little lad, a tot, in short pants, running around when TPOS released its first record, which was by my humble little punk rock band called Broken Talent. And it was a 7-inch EP called Blood Slut. And it was just one of those matters of expediency. We were a band. The only reason we pressed a record was because we wanted to book gigs. And we sort of had this vague idea that it was easier to book the gig if you had a record. Right. So we pressed a record.
It's a little more bona fide than a demo tape, right? If you have a 7-inch to hand out.
Well, yeah. I mean, and even, like in the early 80s, there were such things as demos, obviously, but they hadn't really taken off to the point that they would later. We really weren't even we were kind of aware of the concept, but as far as we knew, a demo tape was just something that you made one copy of and gave to a venue that you wanted to play at. And that's what we did to get our very, very first ever gig. We went into our lead singer's parents' garage and did this horrific clanging and banging on pots and pans and like an unplugged bass guitar. We made a cassette and we gave the only cassette that there was to the promoter of the club and never thought about it again after that. So like the idea of making a mass-produced cassette was alien to us. That wouldn't come until a few months later down the line. So as far as we knew, a record was the only way to do it. And okay, we'll make a record. And we made it in the best way that we knew how, which is extremely crude and amateurish and DIY. And if you want to know the entire story, I can tell it to you right now, man.
Let's hear it. That's why we're here.
Okay, well, here we go. Basically, God, it's like even the whole story is just so kind of ludicrous. I don't even know where to begin. Okay.
Beginning, man.
We were the lead singer of Broken Talent was this guy named Big Santo. And he was the guy, I knew him all the way back to elementary school days.
What did you play? What did you play in the band, Malcolm?
I played bass.
Okay. Okay.
just by default, only because literally a bass guitar was the only instrument close at hand. When it came time to form the group, everybody chose their instruments. Rick couldn't really play anything, so he was the singer. And the only instrument around was a bass guitar. For some reason, my father had a bass guitar. He never.
Well, and look at you now. And look at you now, Malcolm. Now
Now.
you're bass player in the Andy scene.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's just totally bizarre because the old man, as far as I can remember, he never played it. He never did anything with it. It was just this thing that was always sitting around the living room, just kind of gathering dust. And so, all right, there it is. So I'll just play this thing, and it's a little bit easier than a guitar. It's only got 4 strings.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that's already here. So, okay, I'm the bass player, whatever that means. And so it was like my style was literally just picking it up and plunking around on it and getting a couple of pointers here and there from people I knew who played guitar and just showing me like the most crude, primitive basics about how to sort of fumble your way around on a bass guitar. Excuse me. So, we had the band. Rick sang, I played bass. We found a guy who actually knew how to play guitar and a girl who actually knew how to play drums. And we just sort of cobbled together this little group of songs. And so when it came time to record a record, we chose the 3 that we thought we could play the best and showed up at our drummer's house on New Year's Day, 1984. What we had with us was just like a bunch of old recycled reel-to-reel tape that Rick, our singer, had found lying around the library at the University of Miami because he went to U of M. And we used whatever facilities we could find at U of M to be a band. And that included his dumpster diving all this ancient reel-to-reel tape that the library was going to throw out or forgot even existed or whatever. They all dated back to like the late 50s and early 60s. They were mostly covered in dust. But hey, it was reel-to-reel tape. And from what we understood, records were recorded on reel-to-reel tape because, well, that's just the way it was done. So we had all this old, ancient reel-to-reel tape. It was all stuff that had old lectures and plays and, book readings from the university from decades before. Rick had a reel-to-reel tape recorder. It was like a home unit, like a Sony stereo home recorder that he might have also dumpster dived from the university. And our drummer's brother had a mixing board and he had some microphones. So as far as we knew, that's how you made a mic. That's how you made a record. You took reel-to-reel tapes, a reel-to-reel tape recorder, a bunch of mics, and had somebody who kind of knew what they were doing press the record button on the reel-to-reel tape recorder.
That's the magic. That's where it all comes from, simplicity and just putting something together. And that's what makes some of the best records you ever heard.
Yeah, and that kind of bears it out because here we are, the better part of 40 years later talking about this record that just won't go away, and
you would never sell me a copy of that record.
I never had one.
Oh,
how many were made?
Well, we pressed 500, and in keeping with the complete DIY / utterly ignorant aesthetic of this whole thing, we went to the only pressing plant we had at our disposal, which was a place called Miami Tape, and it was in Hialeah, Florida. And it turns out the Miami Tape was like the cheapest bottom shelf pressing plant you could ever hope for. They did a lot of pressing for the South American market.
No.
And Jim, who has been active in the manufacturing process, knows what that means.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Yeah, it was strictly export to a market that didn't care about quality at all.
Yeah.
And they did lots of cheesy disco 12-inch singles, and so they were really cheap. We could afford them. But the downside is, out of the 500 that we pressed, somewhere around 150 of them were unplayable.
Oh.
Like the vinyl was flimsy and cheap that they came right off the press, all warped and disfigured and looking like potato chips more than
Right.
record.
Hey, kitty.
Which, ironically enough, added to the rare desirability and collectability of this record, because there's so few of them that actually were playable and usable. And we did get use out of those unplayed records, though, when we played CBGB for the second time, maybe even the first time, but definitely the second time we played CBGB in the summer of '85. I remember sitting on the stage of CBGB and weeding out all the warped records because we had gotten complaints from people who had bought them. Said, "Oh, we can't play this record; it's all warped." So we went through on the stage of CBGB and we got all the warped ones. And during our set, we threw them out to the crowd. And
That's great.
for the remainder of our set, they came back at us in pieces.
Oh,
Just like this rain of flimsy warped vinyl. And
Classic.
wicked
Yeah.
return policy.
exactly, So that's pretty much it. We did it in the best way we knew how, which was absolutely no knowledge whatsoever, with the resources we had at our command, which was bare minimum. And here we are today.
So does that
Still
music
at it.
exist digitally anywhere, or is there any
No.
recordings of the shows? Any tape recordings of your shows?
Oh, you mean now? What do you mean? Is there digital evidence nowadays?
Yes.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, good.
TPOS has unwillingly and unwittingly entered the digital age. TPOS has a Bandcamp page,
Okay, great.
which is just for reference, TPOS1, numeral 1, bandcamp.com. And so I've got some Broken Talent stuff up there.
Great.
I've got tons of my own solo stuff, a lot of the bands I've been in, and a lot of other releases on TPOS. You can find that on Bandcamp. So yes, there is digital stuff.
Cool.
Yep, there are live recordings. There is some archival stuff. But I've pretty much released just about everything that there is worth releasing from Broken Talent. There's still one more session that I'm going to release a couple tracks from, but after that, that's it. There is nothing left. We have totally scraped the ground beneath the bottom of the barrel
Cool.
as far as Broken Talent goes.
Well, I've never heard Broken Talent. I can't wait to go check him out, Malcolm. I actually recently purchased the Fugazi live series, the whole thing, like 800 shows of Fugazi, and I started digging into '87. And I'm going to do my next series is going to be Dooner's Guide through Fugazi. But I kind of feel the same way. I want to do the same thing with your catalog, right? I want to go back to the beginning and dig through all the way up to now. So, is that Broken Talent or Talon? Like a Talon
Broken Talent. As in no talent.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to diving in and checking it out. Also, I gotta say, I've been watching a lot of the shows you did on your recent tours the last couple of years, and they are hilarious and awesome and fun. Your version of I Don't Want to Grow Up is great, and just your interaction with the audience is a lot of fun to watch. So definitely check out Malcolm on his YouTube channel and look up some of the recent shows and tours he's done. It's mostly solo acoustic, right? You've been solo acoustic for a couple of years, Malcolm, doing those kind of troubadour tours.
The solo acoustic thing I've been doing since 2008.
Okay.
And I've been touring relentlessly since 2011.
Okay.
With the solo acoustic guitar. I play once
Big
again.
Blue. You're Big Blue.
Yes, the sparkly blue Starvation box. That's what I haul around.
I love it.
And, same deal, DIY aesthetic, DIY ethic. I've never had a guitar lesson in my life, but I've somehow managed to thrash around enough to play. I try to do a minimum of 60 shows a year. I've played all over the U.S. I've been to England twice. I've been to Europe once. Northern Mexico, and it's great. It's just a fantastic ticket to go and literally see the world.
I haven't seen you do a webcast since this pandemic started or anything. How come we haven't seen you do anything live, Malcolm? How come I'd love to see you perform.
I've been doing plenty, but mostly kind of like what we're doing now, storytelling. And
I'm talking about your troubadour shows. I want to see you and your blue guitar play some songs, man.
Well, okay.
Let's do a webcast. Let's talk about that. Let's get some kind of webcast. Let's put that together, man. I've had a lot of fun watching you play, and I think we need to get your music out. So separate from this, we'll talk about that. So that's the first release of TPOS. What's the second one? Let's tease the second one.
Okay, well, the second one, it starts to get really convoluted after the first one because the label TPOS had two models that we, the impressionable youth, based it on. One was SST, and the other one was Factory Records out of England, that did Joy Division and Section 25 and all that great stuff. We stole SST's numbering system because the first SST record was Black Flag Nervous Breakdown. That was SST 001.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally love the idea that when you number your first record 001, that sort of serves notice that you intend to keep going, that you got to start using up all 3 digits in the catalog number. You're going to go for
100 eventually.
Exactly. At some point, you're going to do at least 100. And so that was why we did it 001. We were very impressed with that. And then we used the Factory model because Factory would give every single one of their projects a number, whether it was a record, a poster, a gig, a venue, everything got a number. So TPOS borrowed that idea as well. So our next couple of releases were not records, but they were comic books. So there were 3 or 4 of those, which were TPOS numbers 2 through 8, if I recall correctly. And the next music project wasn't until TPOS 009.
And what was the next music project?
Well, that was gonna be a 7-inch by our little brother band who were called Lethal Yellow. They were the South Florida punk band. They got the name of their band from a lyric to one of our songs. And Jim can relate to this one. The project got as far as the pressing stage before the band pulled the plug on it and decided to do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Bummer. All right, well, that's a teaser. That's a teaser. So we'll leave it at that. Great flavor of TPOS in the beginnings. Mr. Gibson.
Yes.
I'm going to turn to you. Let's get to the beginnings of Noiseville.
Yeah.
So where did you think of it? How old are you? I know I have the text of it that you wrote down and everything, but I want to hear from the horse's mouth, the bearded horse's mouth.
I was in college of radio. I was at Westchester Community College, 13th grade, high school with ashtrays. And I was a music director at the radio station, and I realized I wasn't going to make any money doing radio. So I was like, oh, Jesus, I got to find something else to do. And I got this record in the mail from this guy, this little independent 45. I think it was a country record. And I was looking at it and I said, and then he just happened to call as I'm looking at it, or shortly after. I said, so you made your own record? He says, yeah. I had it made, and I said, really? Where'd you get that made at? He says, oh, United Records in Nashville. That's where I have all my 45s made. And I said, and the place next door to them, they would do the covers because it had had that Nashville Records, those crappy record covers that they used to print. Mm-hmm. And he gave me the phone number, and I called him up, and I said, hey, I want to make a record too. I didn't want to start a record label. I had no interest at all. And I just wanted to make a record myself. So I started recording stuff, and nothing was any good. I mean, it was bad. I wanted to get to at least bad. So it was bad.
So was this Unholy Swill, or was this just Jim Gibson?
This was Unholy Swill, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Originally, it was supposed to be me and a friend of mine doing the band, and then he went to drug rehab. And then so I was alone, and I had to figure this out. And I didn't know how to use, my brother had a 4-track cassette machine, one of those Fostex things.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Like a year to figure out how to use the damn thing and to mix it down. It was just painfully slow, and I just was like, ugh. And then someone had said to me, they said, well, you should put out another record first and then put your record out, because then it'll get more attention. People will pay more attention. So I was like, all right, well, what do I want to listen to? And I remember on NYU, the NYU radio station, they were playing the Pocket Fishermen a lot from Texas. They were playing the Amy Carter single, and I loved it. But you couldn't get it. It was nowhere to be found in New York. It was only in Texas. You had to go there to get it. There was no distribution. So I had written to them, and I said, hey, I want to reissue Amy Carter so it's available up here. I'm glad I'm boring you. And then I just, I said, well, I want to take off, and just, and they're like, well, we got this other song instead. We can let you do that. And I was like, okay. But by that point, that was made in Canada, because I found this other pressing plant, I think it was World Records. It was called. It was even cheaper than United, and I said, well, I'll just make it there, because I had. I figured, the Pocket Fishermen, they're amazing. I'll be able to sell 2,000 copies, no problem.
It sounds like Malcolm booking Flipper in Tuxedo Junction. Yeah, no problem.
No problem. So, I made 2,000 copies of that, and they're gonna be, they're gonna be stuff in my coffin with them. So I mean, so the first record was supposed to be Unholy Swill. But I couldn't get my act together.
Was it going to be "Wanna Be God"? Was it going to be?
Well, eventually, yeah. Because I finally said to myself, I said, try to sound like Henry Rollins. Try to sound like that. Sing like that. I didn't like the vocals.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I was trying to yell like Rollins would, because at the time, he was the dude, So I said, okay, that works. But by then also, the Pocket Fisherman had come out. Well, actually, around the time the Pocket Fisherman came out, because I also wanted to start putting out records, because I wanted to put out the Raw Deal record, because Breakdown had just broken up and become Raw Deal. And literally the day
Killing Time.
Yeah, no, they were Raw Deal first, and then Killing Time.
Right. And
literally, like, around the time I was going to tell them, Bill Wilson and Carl Picaro walk into a record stop where I was working at the time and said, "Oh, we're starting a record label. I'm going to start a record label. We're going to put out a Raw Deal record." I was like, "Oh, okay." So, but then that led to Where the Wild Things Are, and Bill needing some help with that. So I helped out with that. But it just nothing went as originally planned, because by the time I got my little record out that I just wanted to put as a goof to just give to people, by the time it came out, it was the third record I had been involved with. So
that was what year? That was 89, right? The Pocket Fisherman. Yep, that's 89.
89, yeah.
So Malcolm, you were 84.
Yep.
You were 89, and I think. Well, so the first Skin Crawler, was it Skin Crawler or Ted Franco? Ted Franco is Nose Hair number 2. Which
he was in the 90s.
94. So this is 94.
Yeah.
Right. So this was Nose Hair 02. 01, Jim, it was a tape you said, right? I still haven't found record of that or any. This is Nose Hair 02.
I think I did find the box with all those tapes.
Oh, cool. I got to check that out. I
haven't been able to get to it, but I think I eyeballed it the other day in the back of the store. So
okay, great. We'll have to look into that.
Should be number 1.
Someone pointed out to me that this Nose Hair may be the only record label ever out of Patterson, New York. Maybe, potentially.
There's probably something else that came out. It's probably some
country folky person. Yeah. You never know. It's a big. This is a great. So what year did Ted pass away, Jim? When did Ted pass?
I don't remember what year it was.
Was it a long time ago, like 10 years ago or 5 years ago? Or?
Oh, it was a long time ago.
It was, yeah. He's amazing. I discovered him through Alan and you. Where did you discover Ted Franco, Jim?
Through John, really, because John Franco was hanging around Rock and Rex a lot, and I remember him giving me a copy of the CD and saying, "Oh, my dad made a CD, here, check it out."
Was it Shoot My Boss, or was it
Shoot My Boss? Yeah, because he made the CD single. That was the first thing they did, and I was just like, "Wow, that's different. That's really."
And there's a really good video on YouTube of Ted doing that song. I've shared it and posted it. I'm gonna share it again through our Dooner's Guide through Weirdoville site. It's so good. And
that's one of the few. I was very happy. I did probably about a dozen shows with Ted, and we recorded an entire album, and it has yet to come out.
Let's hear it. I want to hear
it
that.
Out. Big time.
I want to hear that.
John Franco, I've been bugging him for 15 years, and it's heavy. It is a heavy.
We got to get that out. Between the three of us, come on, we got to be able to do it. We got to.
Even one of the songs that it was an Unholy Swill song. I had no. I was going to use it for Unholy Swill, and I used it for Ted Franco. John ended up taking that lick and using it for Awkward Thought. It was so heavy for his hardcore band. But I've been bugging him for 15 years to put that out. I said, look, I'll put out the CD, man. I'll put out Ted Franco's, but there's a full album that has never heard or see. I haven't even heard it yet.
We got to work on that. We got to work on that. That's a goal of the three of us is to make sure that happens. So another release, speaking of Shoot My Boss and Unholy Swill, Nose Hair 04 was Unholy Swill covering Shoot My Boss.
Yeah.
Right, so great version, backed with We're Truck Drivers, another classic. Can't really see that.
Yeah. That was actually one of the first Unholy Swill songs that we did it, but we didn't put it out because we just couldn't get it right.
Yeah.
And then I kind of said, okay, guys, I know how to do this now. I know how to work the machine, So I got the original guy I was supposed to do the band with, and my younger brother sings on it too, Peter. So
I've been listening to the live album. Your version of the Jeffersons theme is just so awesome. So awesome. So everyone's got to check out the Unholy Swill. We'll be talking about them a lot more as we go through. I think that's where I'm going to close it from that. Nose Hair is our story comes a little later than you guys. We'll definitely get to that. But wow, Unholy Swill on a Ted Franco album. My mind's kind of blown. I can't think anymore. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep at night now, knowing that. Malcolm, we have to do something about this. It's just not right. It's not right.
No.
I tell
Ted Franco's the real deal.
Totally, man. So we'll work on it. We'll work on talking to John.
He'll watch this. He'll watch this. And people out there watching this, leave a comment saying, give us more Ted.
More Ted Franco. No doubt.
Yeah.
Ted,
We want the Ted.
And if John sees that, he'll do something.
All right. Well, that's one of my goals now. So, Malcolm, I want to make sure I get the link to all your information so people can get to your Bandcamp stuff, all TPOS. So we'll work on getting that all out to everybody. This has been a lot of fun, guys. Episode 1. There we go. It's done. We got a little TPOS flavor, Noiseville, and Nose Hair.
Just keep going, man.
What do you want to talk about next?
Oh, I don't know.
Well,
I
can just tell you.
record label.
Well, we got time. I actually got to go. My wife's going to be home soon, so I got to end it for today. So we'll keep them coming. They'll be back for more. So thanks, Malcolm. Thanks, Jimmy. We can either do it next week or we can do it sooner. So episode 1 complete. We'll be back for episode 2. More TPOS, Noiseville, and Nose Hair, and Dooner's Guide through Weirdoville. So peace out, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.